Hello. Do role-playing campaigns, new ones, need a session zero? Well, to that question, I always say absolutely yes, because you're going to be investing a lot of time and energy in your campaign. Could be 6 months, could be a year, could be 2 years, could be 6 years. That campaign could be lasting for a long time, so you need to get some ground rules down pretty early on. So not only will you be finding out about what your players want, what their expectations are, what they don't really want in a game, all that sort of thing. You'll also be setting down the ground rules about what you want from the game as well as GM. You'll also be putting down the details as to what you expect from the players. How often the game's going to be, when the scheduling is, what you're going to do in case people don't turn up. Character creation, just getting a decent party together. I think it's really important that a session zero takes place, and maybe even more than one, just to make sure that the party that you've created gels, depending on the game that you're playing, of course. There's always plenty of things that you can get set up in a session zero, which is going to benefit the game for a long time. It's sometimes as well as a good idea to very early on sort of ascertain exactly what kind of game that you're going to play, whether it's going to be serious or comical or casual, that sort of thing. Because there's nothing worse than a whole bunch of people creating a whole new slew of characters for a serious game. You've got like Aurelius Condor and Tyr Swordsong and Corson of the Upperland, and then somebody creates a character called Poopy McFartface, and it's like, hang on a second, I thought we were doing a serious campaign. So you kind of iron out those problems very, very early on. Although, to be fair, Poopy McFartface, I'd probably allow that into the game. So it's best just to sort of get that set up very, very early on, so people's expectations for the game aren't either sort of ruined, or they start the very first session thinking one thing's going to happen, and then suddenly the game goes off in a completely different direction. They're like, to be honest with you, I never really signed up for this. You want to get off to a nice clean start, really. I mean, if you're going to be playing a game for a long time anyway, things are going to be changed up. Nobody's going to be in that same mood for those 6 years or 6 months or however long it's going to be. So there will be moments of levity. There will be when you're just messing around. There will be moments of when you're just being a bit silly, and that's absolutely fine during a game campaign. But you've always got to have a baseline to return to. So if things get really, really silly, then you can always draw it back and say, come on guys, let's take a step back, or you just allow it to naturally flow back to what people expected from the game in the first place. I find that a lot of people leave campaigns, because the games don't go the way that they expected, as far as sort of the style of game, all the kind of fun that they're having, because people's ideas of fun are very, very different. So I do like a good, serious, dramatic game. I find that fun. Somebody else might not enjoy that, and they might much prefer a bit of a more of a light-hearted, silly, sort of a goofball game. Both ways of playing are perfectly normal, but those two games might not, those two ideals might clash a little bit. So yeah, the way I look at it is that games session zeros are really, really important, because you need to set those standards. You need to set those I won't say rules, because every rule is going to get bent or broken at some point. But you need to set those guidelines. This is what the campaign's going to be. This is what it's going to be like. This is what I expect from you as players, and I want to know what you expect from me as a GM. As soon as you set up that baseline, set up those rules, there's going to be deviations over the time that you actually play the game. There's no way you can account for that. People's moods are going to be different week to week to week. So there's no way to get away from that. But there'll always be an expectation of a certain kind of a game that you've agreed on in session zero. So I think that's it, actually. I've not really got much more to say on that. I've had session zeros where we've sat down and spent a long time going over character creation, going over what the game's going to be about, what it's going to be like, and then almost straight away in the next game or the game after that, it's just evolved into Monty Python quotes or constant pop culture references. And it kind of throws me out the game a little bit. If I've agreed to do a game like that where it's quite casual, like I'm doing at the moment with the Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition campaign that was started, it's a little bit casual. So yes, I want a good adventure game, but we can be a little bit silly at the table. That's absolutely no problem at all. But if I've designed a campaign which is going to sort of, I hate to use the word, it's going to be serious, because we're all there to enjoy ourselves at the end of the day. But there's different ways of enjoying yourself. And sometimes if I can get really into a dramatic story and a plot and the characters, that's the way that I enjoy myself. But it's hard for me to do that if somebody at the table is saying, okay, then I'm going to grab a wooden spoon, stick it up my bottom, and then run at him shouting, Arnold Farquhar. That's never happened to me in a game. By the way, that was just an extreme example. So you know what I mean. So moments like that sort of ruin it for me, and it might ruin it for other people at the table. So again, we come back to why session 0 is important and why you should sit down and have these conversations before the game actually starts. So yeah, I think that's I think I pretty much made a point on that one. So yeah, thanks. Ta-ra.